did you miss us?
I was gonna literally say that. Stop. The brain cell is like divided now.
Honest answers only.
Yeah. And they're like, no, we didn't.
Like, no. Fuck you guys. Well, fine. We're going to talk about this episode anyway. Why are you listening?
Yeah, if you're listening to this, then you're the masochist.
Also, thanks for hate listening. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. So, episode 9 this week.
Yes.
A lot happening in this episode.
I forgot how much happened in this episode. Not gonna lie.
It feels like 3 episodes.
It does. It does. It has like 3 very strong, 3/4, I guess, really strong parallel stories happening all at once that are divided pretty equally, which is not usually how Motherland goes. Like, usually there's like an A plot that like takes up most of the time and then like the B, C plots. But this one's like pretty balanced with the other stories. So maybe that's why it felt like multiple episodes in one.
I believe you are correct. And the title of this one is Mother of All, Mother of None. Written by Brian Q. Miller and directed by David Frazee?
I have no idea.
Frazee.
I literally went through the same 2 pronunciations in my head. David F.
And then I added a third. I'm sorry, David. Frazee. That's my other.
Yeah.
Frazee. So we're going to start this one off with a bang because guess who shows up for Nicta's interrogation?
The HBIC. She's alive.
So we see Alder meeting Motorcade, and first Silver steps out, and in my head it's just like, boo.
Yep. Oh, there's many notes in mine that just says, ew, gross, I hate you, the devil.
And Alder's like, well, you didn't have to show up for this. Like, I don't need you. Why are you here?
Facts.
This is not a good thing. I don't want you knowing any of this information. And he's like, well, it wasn't my choice. And then Wade steps out. Guess what? HBIC in town. So, yeah. And the words that she utters is, where's Nicta Baton?
Good question.
In that powerful, commanding voice.
Yes.
So, basically, what we have here is the president's tired of being out of the loop, and she knows all the shit that's going on. She's been having some chit chats with somebody that has inside information, and so here she is. She's shown up for Nicta's interrogation, and they're all inside when we see them next. And we watch as a witch tries to get into Nicta's head and extract information like we've seen them do before. But Nicta somehow incinerates the witch.
Her power is so good.
Theora is swooning.
Yes, I love her.
And what I love about this was her quippy line afterwards. It was very Buffy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Was it something I thought?
Yeah, I love it.
Beautiful.
No,
thank you, Brian, for that line.
I love Nicta.
Love it. That lady she just poofed like she was gone in an instant.
I know. I love that no one cleans the ashes in this room either. It's so
like,
fun.
we'll leave them
They're just
there.
like, fuck. All right, whatever. Just leave it there.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, you
It's
guys
funny.
got a broom somewhere, right?
I assume, but who knows?
Is there any Fantasia cleaning that could be going on?
Bewitched mops and brooms?
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be so funny.
Wouldn't it?
It would.
Fantasia meets Motherland, Fort Salem.
They're like, no, as they're like congregated by that window, there's just like the music start. No, you hear the music no matter what, and they start hearing music, and there's like the brooms and mops start coming in the room,
Exactly.
and Isadora's like, not now, and they leave. That's what she was doing off screen. Bonus segment.
I love it.
Because you know she's not cleaning the necro lab, and that place has to be like sterile and spotless. So she's got bewitched cleaning supplies. She sure does.
Yeah. She does, and the assistant sent them in, but Isidore's like, hello, not now.
Not now. The Wade is just like, what the fuck is happening? I hate coming to this place.
I hate that I have to be here.
Yeah. But I'm glad you're alive, Queen.
Yeah, for real, because it seemed touch and go there for a hot minute.
It sure does. You were under the weather for a season.
Yeah. Oh, geez. I mean, I assume that puppeting and pushing can do a number on your brain, so...
Oh, I'm sure. But, I mean...
To a degree, like a traumatic brain injury.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there was lingering effects from that, for sure. But I feel like the Camarilla was poisoning her or some shit.
Oh, yeah. And I also have some lingering effects from all of the incineration that just happened.
Well, yes.
Who doesn't feel those sapphic vapors?
Only the heartless. Only the heartless.
Fair enough. Mm-hmm. So, that's pretty much...
I just love the very end of that scene after Nicta incinerates the woman, the way she stares down Alder through the window.
Oh, God,
and it's just like, checkmate, bitch. It's so good.
Balls in your court.
Because Nicta honestly has a bunch of tricks Alder has no idea about. So she's like, yep, look what I can do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's been coming up with new work for all those years.
Exactly. So I love that she's like, she finally has this opportunity to like show that off to Alder and is like, checkmate, bitch. You scared? You scared?
I think that's like one of the things that Alder has no idea how she did that. So
yep, that's what I mean. Yeah. Nicta is quite the opponent.
Oh well, what can you do?
Enjoy the glory of that moment. So, yep. After that, we cut into the War College common room where Anacostia and the unit are hanging out on the couches, like around a coffee table, sharing a bottle of whiskey. They're all laughing and celebrating. And essentially the unit's like reminiscing about their break and like affectionately it was like, isn't that funny when we tried to murder each other? Like, oh my God, guys. So weird. What a wild break. And Anacostia is like eating this up a bit, and she's like, wow, I am so glad you guys are not my problem anymore, because look at you. But I am low-key proud that you three pains in the ass brought the founder of the spree in. So like, good on you. At least you're good for something. And they all cheers at that because, I mean, that is quite an accomplishment for a group of 18-year-olds. So good job, guys. And then Raylla kind of gets like a little candid after that and thanks Anacostia for doing whatever the fuck she was doing with Scylla mysteriously and covertly, because whatever it was they did, it brought Raylla and her mother back together and Raylla and Scylla back in each other's orbits. And she's like, you know, the reason I'm alive is because of whatever you were doing, because they came and saved me. So thank you. I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for whatever you were doing, Anacostia. And she raises her mug and does like a toast to Anacostia. And everyone chimes in. And then Anacostia says, to Willa Collar, which, great, but rude because she leaves out Scylla. Like, what the fuck? Like, once again, it's like, here's people ignoring the fact that Scylla was also a hero in this story. And they're just like, Willa, we'll ignore the other one. But whatever. So, cute bonding moment with Mama Costia. And as they're like doing their final cheers, Petra comes in the room to grab Tally. And she's like, well, Nicta's asking for you. Like, ooh la la. And she won't talk to anybody else. Tally, we need you. And the rest of the unit's like, wait, what the fuck? Like, this is like danger. We want to go with her. And Petra shuts that shit down. She's like, listen, Nicta only asked for Tally. So I'm only going to bring her Tally. Because Petra is determined to see Alder go down and is super eager to just give Nicta everything she wants. Because Petra still doesn't know the full story of everything. And she knows Tally does. And is like, this, you need to like get Nicta to talk in front of the president so I can be in charge. So like, come on, Tally. And only Tally. And they peace out of there.
I'd like to revisit them toasting about or drinking and whatnot about their little break, because what you said made me think of like, they had a wild time in Panama City Beach.
They did. What happens in the Camarilla compound stays in the Camarilla compound. Oh, wait, no, the Nicta's cabin. I like that better. Whatever happens in Nicta's cabin stays in Nicta's cabin.
In Nicta's cabin.
All the
Literally,
murder
the dead bodies are still there.
Right, exactly. It all stays there. Does Nicta even own that cabin?
No,
I don't think
it's not Nicta's cabin.
I love her
some
so much.
Random person's hunting cabin that she procured.
And then they come back and they're like, "What the fuck? Who are these dead bitches?
They're dead bodies in here.
Dead bodies in here." And
it's got melted metal all over them.
Is this a cloak? What year is this?
Satanic rituals.
Yeah, so Nicta's just be gay, do crime. That's Nicta Patan. I love her so much.
Yeah, that needs to be a t-shirt.
Be gay, do crime.
Yeah, be gay, do crime, Nicta Patan. So, the fun time of toasting and drinking whiskey is over, and we're gonna go to Khalida, who's meditating, as Khalida does.
Sure. This is what she does in her spare time off screen. She's meditating.
She does in her spare time. She's communing with the ancestors. That's what we'll say, or something. I don't know. But, hey, my theory is she's actually talking with the mycelium.
Could be. Communing with the ancestors.
Yeah. So Adil walks in and she asks him where he's been. And he says, making the world a safer place for our people. Which she sees right through all of that mess and probably has some way to sense everything that he did while he was gone. And then she's like, you killed somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love that he doesn't answer this question. He just keeps going. So I found that really interesting that he's like, whatever, but like baby witches and cages, etc. So
yeah, he's like, justification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Khalida's like, yeah. Interesting, brother of mine.
But the big thing comes when she goes, you liked it, didn't you? That's exactly. The part that really, because it's like she can feel his satisfaction, the part of him that's satisfied by getting justice for the witches that the Camarilla people were torturing, basically. Mm-hmm. And he goes off a little bit on how the Camarilla think of them as animals and they still their voices to use against them. But Khalida stays stalwart in her beliefs and says that that's all the more reason to stay quiet. So she's still on the turn the other cheek path. Yeah. And he says that they won't survive if they continue that. And she replies, well, then they won't. Okay, fine. Then we'll die off. And peace will die with us, And then she does the ultimate slap in the face, which is take the ampule of blood that he wears around his neck so that he can find her with the blood compass if he needs to, and just pulls it off. And then she does that whole dramatic exit after staring at him for a hot minute to let the point sink in.
Yeah, and so it's a sad scene because, we found out, I didn't remember if it was the last episode before, basically they're the last members of their family kind of thing. And so it's very sad for the two of them to part kind of like this because they're the only family they have left, but they're parting on a difference of ideology. So It's just what a sad place to draw the line in the sand and be like, well, if something bad happens to me, now you can't find me. Whatever. It's almost like we're not...
I've disowned you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're not family anymore kind of thing. So, and it speaks to Khalida's commitment to the traditions of her people and the fact that she can't really see his perspective. It's kind of like an emotional response in a way, or just this clinging to her ideology without empathizing with what Adil just went through and his perspective, because he grew up in the same culture as her, 1,000 years of pacifism. We saw him really struggling with his own actions that she's essentially grilling him on. And so it's like, it's weird to see her. She's like the big stoic wise one, just like not even try to like empathize or like see his perspective. She's just like, no, this was wrong. End of story. I'm disowning you. Goodbye. See,
it's very age appropriate for her actual age.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's almost out of character for like Khalida, like the anointed one, but like it's like a sibling getting mad at their older brother behavior. It's very interesting. So I feel like based on that behavior that this must really invoke an actual emotional response from Khalida, and this must really be heartbreaking to her because we rarely see her act on her emotions unless she's like pissed off at Alder. That's kind of the only emotion we ever see from her. So like this must be like a betrayal of trust in a way to her, and must hurt her deeply for her to behave like this because it seems irrational like for her, almost like she's emotional about it. So it's very sad. And poor Tareem babies.
Poor Tareem babies.
Yeah. So after that like sibling squabble, we shoot on over to the gays. So meanwhile, in the session, Scylla's chilling.
Happiness.
Scylla's chilling at the Collar house, like walking around the kitchen like she owns the place. And she's on the phone with Raylla, who's back at War College. And in this scene, I want to highlight a couple of things. So Scylla has her little like feather necklace. It's exposed on her like neck. So it's like Hope is like out in the open. She doesn't think it's fragile. It's like she's very in a good positive headspace right now when it comes to Raylla. And on Raylla's side, she's on the payphone because technology, and her uniform is open, so and her medal's out. So it's almost like her emotional guard is down when she's on the phone with Scylla. So it's like signifying based on their wardrobe that they're in a more honest, vulnerable place with each other, which is a big step from where they were kind of in the last episode. So it's like signifying their progression, essentially. And while Raylla's on the phone with Scylla, she's like smiling the whole time and like playing with the phone cord like she's nervous, which is adorable. So they're both visibly in a better place, like you can see by their behavior and like their clothing. And so
they're adorable. That's all. I just watch this scene over and over, and I'm like, oh, every time there's something more cute. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's very cute, and it's a big. It's indicating like their progression from just like, ugh, spree girl, you're alive, I hate you, to like, oh, live with my dad, to like, so clearly like they've been communicating, and like there's trust building again between the two of them. So there's like hope for a trustful future between them, essentially. And a lot of that's like kind of conveyed in this dialogue as well. So in the conversation, Scylla's basically filling Raylla in on the fact that like, okay, yeah, clearly we're in the session. That's how you're talking to me. Your dad's doing great. Tiffany's here. They're getting along. I met Quinn. She's cool and is going to look for a Dodger family for Tiffany. Because apparently Quinn just knows all the Dodgers. Where's Quinn's backstory? So that's what's happening there. And like Raylla's excited about all this. She's like beaming. Her dad's good with kids and is happy that this is going well. And then Scylla pivots the conversation into like slightly more awkward territory. She's like, yeah, everything's going great with your dad, but like I'm lying by omission to this man. So does he know? Like, does your dad know? And Scylla's asking him, like, does your dad know that like I used to kill civilians and I'm a terrorist? Does he know this? Because like I'm living in his house, walking around like I own the place.
What a loaded question.
So yeah, exactly. It's like Scylla has to feel super guilty about this because like this was all Raylla's idea, and like once again, Scylla is meeting a collar under the guise of deception yet again, and she's like, I feel really bad because he's being great and like giving me his house, but like, does he know who I am? Like, what the fuck?
But Rael's brain is in one place.
No. So Raylla, again, is in this honest kind of situation with Scylla and, like, shows all her cards where her head's at. And she says, about us. Like, does he know that you're the one that I used to call him crying about? Does he know that? Because that's also awkward. Because at this moment, like, Raylla's being 100% vulnerable. She doesn't even, like, think about that response. She says that. And Scylla's was not expecting this because that's not what she was asking, and just runs with her hope, and she pushes a little bit, and she's like, well, is there an us to know about? Like, should I know about this us? Because you seem to think there's one, which is, I wasn't expecting that, but also, like, now I have more hope. Exactly. This conversation's all about hope. And Raylla just, like, is like, ah, fuck. Like, stepped into that one, didn't I? Yes, Raylla. Yes, you did. And Scylla, to her credit,
disaster game moment.
Yeah, Scylla, to her credit, like, is like, okay, that's enough hope. Let's not shatter it. Just, like, leaves it at that and clarifies, like, no, like, does he know, like, I was in the spree and, like, worked with your mother and, like, all this crazy shit, which does, anyway, whatever, let's move past it. And Raylla's like, well, listen, my dad's been involved with, like, witch business long enough to know not to ask too many questions. It's because it's usually classified. So Scylla's like, all right. She kind of thinks about that for a second and is like, okay. And Raylla kind of pushes her luck with Scylla and is like, well, how are you doing? Like, I want to know about you. That Tiffany stuff is all great. My dad's great, but whatever. How are you doing? Because that's where my head's at. And Scylla's like, yeah, I'm doing good. I made a new friend. And, like, she turns to the window and a giant blackbird, like, lands on the windowsill. And they look at each other like they know each other. And this is the bird she met in the woods, because revisit our last episode for those details. This bird helped Scylla get out of the woods. That's how they became friends. He saved her life.
And it's a collared crow.
Exactly. So revisit the last episode for the details. But they are friends now. He saved her life. And
so
then we cut away.
Scylla can't stay away from the collars in one shape or form. She even out in the wilderness, she finds a collared crow to lead her back to civilization.
And that's probably the first caller she ever met and was super honest with right off the bat. She's like, listen, bitch, I am lost. I don't know what the fuck going on. My name's Scylla.
My name's Scylla. What's your name?
I used to be in the spree. I wasn't, but you don't care because you're a bird. This isn't your fight. Help me out of these woods.
So where's the interstate?
Yeah. Which way is the session? Oh shit, I gotta get Tiffany first. I'll explain who Tiffany is on the way, and then we'll go.
So there's a girl named Tiffany, and I need to know how to get to her.
And then we gotta go to Quint. Just write all these names down.
Yeah, just get your little claws a working.
So yeah, that's how they met.
I love our crow head cannon.
Fuck yeah. Because I was always like, where the fuck did she find this bird? And I was like, the woods.
Yeah.
She was trapped in those woods, so let's not lie to ourselves and found the bird.
Yeah, let's not. Don't lie to ourselves. It was
she didn't know those woods.
Fairy tale meeting.
Yeah.
Into the woods, out of the woods.
Exactly.
With the crow. Yeah, that whole scene is such a nice and hopeful thing. I remember seeing it for the first time when the episode aired, and I think I may have screamed a little bit. And like, you had the kiss last episode, but this episode with them continuing to talk about it, you knew that there was going to be a swift development in that area. So it was nice to see. And that's how I feel about that whole situation.
Yeah, it's nice to see the progression, but it's also good that it's like, they're not there yet. Like, exactly. It takes time. They're working on their stuff.
Yeah, like, people are upset about them not being together more in this season, and I just think that this is the logical path. Like, you can't just...
I agree. Visit our prior episodes to hear us rant about that.
Exactly.
But yeah, like, the progression is good. It's like, they're getting there. They're building a new foundation, and that takes time. And so that's what we see in this exchange. It's like, it's moving forward, but like, they're not there yet. They're getting there, you know.
They're not there yet, but Raylla is obviously thinking about Scylla an awful lot. So
yeah, progress.
So back to the whole Nicta situation.
Ooh.
Petra brings Tally in, and Tally's face, like, damn, she's looking a little like, she looks terrified, but also determined. Mm-hmm. And That's how I would feel too, considering a woman just got incinerated. But Tally doesn't know that. So, hopefully Petra didn't tell her that. But Alder tells her that she doesn't have to do this, but Tally thinks it's important to hear what Nicta has to say. So she goes into the cell, and you hear the ashes of the woman that was in there before crackling under her shoes as she walks over them. There's a pretty stark kind of thing going on there. And so immediately Nicta's in a very different mood than she was earlier. It feels like charming with a dash of flirty McFlirt face. Like she's a little bit smitten with Tally, but I think it's there are a lot of layers to that.
Yeah, question with this Nicta flirting, because it's flirting, let's be real. Now, was Nicta, because, like, think of her audience when she's doing this. Alder's here, and, like, the poor president who's just getting traumatized by the second with all these damn witches. Was Nicta flirting with Tally because she wants to flirt with Tally, or was she doing it to make Alder jealous? Or both?
I was going to say yes.
Both. Both is good. Yes. I love it.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Mm-hmm. Nicta, hero.
She's trying to get under, in my opinion, she's trying to get under Alder's skin.
She sure
and at
is.
the same time, she's also getting under Tally's skin in a very different way. Because no one says you could hardly blame me for stealing that face. Look at those dimples. I could summer in one and winter in the other, or reverse that. But you get what I mean. That's not something you say to somebody that you just...
No. Who do you say that to?
Who do you say that to?
Right, Arlen, this is what I was talking about. Arlen, listen, this is what I was talking about when I said Nicta's charming. It's this.
This, like...
There is
Arlen.
no heterosexual explanation for this line. Who says this?
That's a reference to us, our little chat we had with her, but...
You'll hear all about that later, but yeah. This is what I was talking about. Nicta is charming when she wants to be.
When she wants to be, she turns it on, and it's very...
It's on.
Obvious.
Oh, it's on. Anyway.
Tally is gonna kind of ignore all of that.
Tally doesn't know what to do with that. She's like, I just got flirted with. That Tally.
Like,
She don't know what's going on.
Putting that aside, and she starts to ask about how many spree cells are in operation after the attack that happened on the spree leadership. Nicta bats that away with wipe one out, wipe out at 100, you can't stop an idea. And Tally goes on to pull out more questions, names of cell leaders, failing that, locations. But basically Tally tries to recruit, Nicta tries to recruit Tally right in front of Alder. But like, Alder, you're wasting her. She should come join us. And it's just not working out. Like, they're not getting any information. And Tally points out that civilians might have a higher opinion of witches if Nicta would stop murdering them. And that kind of gets Nicta on track to the point, because her response is how many witches died in military engagements in the last year. Run that against the number of civilian deaths attributed to the spree. And this takes everyone aback, because the spree is killing one civilian for every witch that dies in combat. So that's a big, big thing for everyone to swallow. And I think that revelation prompts Tally to dig down deeper, literally and figuratively, by kneeling down, and tells Nicta to answer her questions. But Nicta says, that's not why I asked for you. I want someone asking the questions who's interested in the truth. So we see what Nicta's play was. It was the same as Petra's, basically. Like, I know this is gonna Tally's going to give her an opportunity to tell the truth in front of the president and the vice president. Alder at that point slams her hand against the glass and says that this is getting them nowhere and dismisses Tally. But Tally ignores Alder because she's on a mission and no one's going to stop her. And she asks Nicta how many civilians died in the very first spree attack. Nicta's response is, that's easy. One for every one of Esterbrook's rebels in Liberia. Basically, Nicta outs Alder for killing the rebels with Nicta's own work without telling her, and then says that she used that same work to start the spree, and that's why Alder tried to erase her from history. So, huge revelation in front of the people that matter power-wise, and that prompts the president to tell Alder that they need to have a little chit-chat about the future and that Petra's going to come along. So that indicates that there's going to be some kind of exchange of power and that now they have a good reason to dethrone Alder from being the head of the army. So Nicta gets to tell her truth to the people, civilian powers that be, and Tally's the kind of vehicle that gets her there. So lots of important information in this one short-ish scene.
Yeah, this scene is awesome for a lot of reasons. Not just because of Nicta's disaster flirting, which is amazing, but it really highlights what the spree's message was really all along. Like, Nicta had this very, like, eye for an eye kind of logic when it came to the death toll. And there was actually a message behind what the spree was doing. But you see from the reactions outside of, Nicta's cell, that message was lost in translation. Because Camarilla Silver is like, what? Like, he didn't understand what the spree was really doing. Like, nobody really understood what the spree was doing. I think narratively they got written off as just like, well, they're a terrorist organization, they do bad things. And so because of that, Nicta's message of like what she was trying to accomplish was completely lost. And so it just looked like they were this group of witches who were just killing civilians just because. And, controlling the narrative is probably what the Camarilla did because it worked to their advantage. And once you control the media, you kind of control the people. So that's kind of the move there. But like, I don't think Nicta really saw how her message was just being erased. And so I think this is the first time that truth was really coming to light, not just the Alder created the spree, but like what the spree was actually trying to do was shocking to like everybody in that room, including like the witches, like the army that was fighting them. They're like, we didn't know this is what you were doing. Like, nobody knew that. So like, bad PR on the spree's side.
Hey, Nicta, write a manifesto or something.
She probably has one. the Batwoman.
Release it.
Release anything. I will eat that shit up.
Nicta needed better PR and I could have done it for her.
Nicta needs a hug, first of all. And yeah.
You take care of the hug, I'll do the PR.
Got it. But yeah, I think that's really important because, the whole time that we've been introduced to the spree, it's just we were shown the perspective that they're evil and they're bad. And then we're like, well, they kind of came from this place of being fucked over by Alder, but really what they were trying to accomplish was like evening the death toll between all the witches who were dying for the civilians by killing civilians. Be like, how do you like it? But it obviously didn't play out that way because they just got written off as this terrorist organization. And I think the other piece I love in this, besides Petra's super smug face when Nicta reveals that Alder made the spree, which was great. Petra's like, ha, I do it, bitch. You're done. I think it's very significant in these exchanges, and even in the end of the last episode, that Nicta calls Alder Sarah. Like, she doesn't call her Alder. She calls her Sarah. She's like the only person that does that. And I think it's significant because it's like a disrespect in a way, because she's almost like, Nicta's almost refusing to acknowledge that Alder, to acknowledge her as like General Alder, or like the war hero she's painted to be, or like some kind of big leader. She's instead bringing Alder down to her level, as if to say, hey, you're Sarah, you're a witch just like me, just like all of us. Like, remember that. You're just a witch at the end of the day, and that's how they see you. So I love that she only chooses to call her by her first name. I think that's significant for Nicta.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Love it. All right, so after that fun exchange, we unfortunately leave Nicta and hard cut into General Alder's office, where Wade and the gang are held up with Alder, the Biddies, and Petra, and VP Silver, I think. And Wade is just like passively, aggressively going off on Alder about like the past and the future of Alder's role in American history. And Wade's just like, yeah, you did a good air quotes. You did some good air quotes, but you crossed a fuck ton of lines along the way, Miss Alder. And Alder tries to like defend herself and be like, yeah, I'm shady, but so are you, Wade. And Wade's like, of course I am. I'm a politician. Of course I'm shady. But I didn't commit half a dozen war crimes, send a bunch of untrained cadets to face the spree, killing one in the process, and then create the damn spree. Now did I, Alder? I'm shady, but I'm not your level of shady. And Alder tries to rationalize her actions as being like, she turns on the propaganda and she's like, well, I did it for the good of America. I saved lives. I did what was in the best interest of, and she's trying to say America again, but Wade cuts her off and she's like, you did what was in the best interest for yourself. Period. That's what you did. We all saw that. And the camera at this line pans to Petra, who looks just smug as fuck. And I love it. She's just having the best day ever. And
Petra's a Cheshire cat right on the other side. It's like, girl, you look so happy about this. No one could ever think that you were in any way, shape, or form like stoic, or you just look like a Cheshire cat over there grinning.
Yeah, I mean, Petra's finally getting what she wants, because like Petra was supposed to be in charge of the army like in season 1, but Alder stopped it by committing a war crime. So Petra's like, finally, this is all coming to light. Maybe I'll finally fucking get what I want. And Wade is, while Petra is smiling and cheesing in the background, Wade keeps reading Alder to filth, and she's like, reading her laundry list of all the shit she just did. She's like, listen, you, Alder, were attacked, didn't go up the chain of command and tell me, your boss, that this happened. Then you puppeted me. That was fun. And then pushed me again into agreeing to the testing center. Petra chimes in after this, and she's like, great job, Wade. All those witch terms were totally appropriate. Like, good job, girl. Can't wait for you to be my boss.
Practiced before you came in.
And it's like, Petra's just trying to keep face, hoping Wade will finally give her that promotion. So she's like, great job, bestie. You know which things. And Alder is just super over all of this. And she's like, listen, the past is in the past. Like, whatever. I can't change it. How do we just move forward now from this? And Wade grabs all the big witch energy in the room. She has so much, and she's not even a witch. She grabs all of it and starts monologuing. And I'm sure she's practiced this conversation like a million times. Like, she's like sat in front of the mirror and like spouts all the things she ever wanted to say to Alder. Like, if she could finally best her, and like, here's her moment, and she shines. Boy, does she shine. And she's like, based on the state of the country, with tensions high between the civilians and the witches, it is best that your connection to Nicta and the founding of the spree never leaves this room. Like, it's going to be our secret. That's the way this is going to go. And as she's talking, she starts like circling Alder like a shark going in for the kill. And Wade continues, Alder, you delivered this country a major victory by capturing Nicta Batan. And now you're going to step down with distinction. And so really what Wade just did is she took Alder's master plan of delivering a win against the spree, because that's why Alder was hellbent on like killing Nicta. And now Wade is using that against her to be like, yep, you did a good thing. Now you're going to step down on a high note. That's how we're going to play this. It's PR. It's good for everybody. The witches look good. I look good. And then I get rid of you, which is what I wanted. So Wade is like winning the chess match right now. And then it cuts to Alder. And Lynn, ma'am, those facial twitches you give, like, someone give her an award for that, because the micro acting in the scene is just glorious. It's just like this quiet fury on her face.
It like gives you a chill, just the way that she, You could see that little tremble in her jawline where it's just like
Yeah, the
clenched and
face twitches. Oh, it's so good. And it's just like this is like the death blow from Wade. And even Petra in this moment when Wade like says this, like or when Alder starts cracking, like Petra looks even like shaken by this because Alder never breaks down and like
shows.
yeah, here she is, like wow, like really like fuck.
Gotten to the point where her wall is breaking.
Oh, it's like the crumbling of a mountain is what's happening right now.
Yeah.
This big formidable thing that's been there for like generations is just like all crumbling, and and like Petra's like, yeah, I wanted this to happen, but like to see it happen is a different thing than to imagine it happening, and it's like, wow, this is the great Alder like being brought down. Like, wow.
Alder's always been there and always been a constant in her power and her control, and now she's
lost it all, really. She's lost her control, her status.
Yeah.
She's in the unknown for the first time in a very long time, and like it shakes everybody in the room.
And it's oof.
Oof indeed.
And then to find out that they're going to stop the biddy program.
I think they say that later, but yeah, which is essentially a death sentence to Alder.
And so after the crumbling of Alder, we're going to check in with Raylla and Abigail, who are in the mycelium room illegally. Abigail, anyway. And we know Isadora would not be approving of this.
Never.
So they're staring at the mycelium, and Abigail's like, I kind of expected more. Like, what it's just a fuzzy wall. Like, what is this business? This is where the power is? I don't know what she expected, but it was something a lot more impressive in her mind than what she got. And then she asks if she can touch it, and Raylla says, well, she'll let you know if you can't. So basically it's like, you're gonna let Abigail touch the wall. I mean, it's probably not gonna kill her, but Abigail approaches the mycelium, but before she can touch it, Isadora comes in and is like, this is a confidential project. The fuck are you doing here? And Raylla says that she thought Abigail at least deserved to know where the witch bomb comes from. But Isadora's in charge. This is her domain, remember? Except she's not in charge of everything because Raylla's been pulled from active duty to do a PR tour of the states and tell everyone that they should find their voices. So whoever's idea this was, no one's happy about it. Not Isadora, not Raylla, definitely not Abigail, not me. So we go like from there to they meet up with Tally somewhere and they're walking outside. And Tally and Abigail are making fun of Raylla because to think of her as the poster girl for army recruitment is funny to them and to me because she's just, that's not who you think of when you're like, yeah, that one needs to recruit people for the army.
Raylla loves the army.
Yeah, she loves it. Remember, she said it in season 1.
Canon.
Canon. Raylla loves the army. So, as they're walking along discussing this and making fun of Raylla, you see cadets crying and whispering on the periphery of their little jaunt, which they notice eventually. And then they come up to M, who's speaking to a group of cadets, and Raylla asks what's going on. And M turns around and says, Alder's stepping down. Tally is like, okay, but why? And M says, like, does it matter? And Tally's like, yeah, it does. People need to know why. And M says that Alder's going out on a high note after capturing Nicta. Yeah, sure, you totally did that. Ask Abigail. She'll tell you. But Tally is pissed because that's not the whole story. And she thinks everyone should know the truth. And I tend to agree about things like that. But it's kind of interesting to see how they're playing it. They're always withholding information from everyone. And you get it to an extent, but also this is like a huge thing that I feel like the people in general deserve to know. Yeah, it's probably going to stoke some of that anti-witch whatnot, but I don't know. I'm with Tally on this one. So.
Yeah, I mean, Tally's just like the truth seeker. That's just who she is. But also, it's more like frustration that Alder just keeps getting away with all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, constantly. She's seen her firsthand commit a bunch of, like, acts of, like, lying by omission, lying on purpose. This was a direct cover-up of altering history, and she's just like, why the fuck do you get away with all this stuff and nothing happens to you? This is bullshit. And now, like, they're gonna kill Nicta because of your bullshit. So, and you know, I'll get into it in the next scene what I think is going on with Tally. But anyway, any more to add?
I really like when they put M into scenes. It makes me happy.
Yeah, M is awesome, but I love that they're also reminding you, remember, they're not just a unit, they're a coven.
They're a coven.
So after Tally gets in a huff at that scene, she marches over to the dungeon to see Nicta.
As you do.
As one does. And I need to note the lighting here is like super green. There's like in the dungeon, wherever they are, there's a lot of green light. But then when the door closes behind Tally and she goes into the jail cell with Nicta. So Nicta's on the left side of the frame, like behind bars, and then Tally's on the right. It's very green light, but there's spotlights in there that gives like a gold, like lesbian Jesus light, which is where Nicta gets her flirting powers from. But it's like, it's kind of like a life and death kind of conversation that they're about to have, like figuratively. But I find the shadowing in this scene very interesting because Nicta's the one that's being cast as like the wrongdoer. She's the one that's about to get executed for her, you know, choices, for her crimes that she committed. But on the left-hand side of the frame, Nicta has some shadows on her and behind her, but like she's mostly in the light. Whereas Tally on the right-hand side of the frame is mostly in the shadow. So it's almost like this like symbolic shadowing and lighting of like their headspaces and kind of where this conversation goes. Because in the conversation, Nicta becomes very honest with Tally, like very honest. Whereas Tally is almost in this place where she feels like she's being forced to lie again because her whole goal was to tell the truth. But here we are back in the same situation where Alder's lying. Alder's going to do a cover up. Everyone's going to be forced to like do what Alder says. And so it's like this conflict with the truth, and it's being highlighted by like the shadow versus the lighting. So good on you, lighting crew. And Nicta off the bat shamelessly flirts with Tally again because that's what she does. And she's like, hey, Red, new shampoo. And it's like, what was this line?
What is this line? Like, can you smell it from over there?
I don't know.
Are you just saying her hair's shiny?
Right. I don't understand this line. Like, good on you, Nicta. She's a disaster gate. I love her. But, like, what was this line? Mm-hmm. Because, like, it could signify, like, your hair looks good. But, like, Tally's hair is, like, tied up behind her back. I don't understand where this line came from. Nicta just has a thing for redheads is what I'm getting from this. But anyway, yeah. I think that's what this is. So what a line out of nowhere. And so she's been hanging out with bats for too long.
Hanging out with bats.
But her awkward flirting is the best. I love it.
Awkward
it's so
flirting.
Awkward.
So good.
She's the best. That's why I love her. She's so adorable. She's just awkward as fuck. And Tally doesn't take the bait. She's like, listen, I'm not here to flirt with you. I'm still confused about Alder and what to do with those feelings. So, like, I can't get into this with you right now. But also, Alder, remember her? She's stepping down from everything. So that's great. And I came here to tell you that. And Nicta, like, processes that for, like, half a second. That, like, Alder is finally stepping down from her position as general. And she, like, leans over and, like, thinks it through. And her only expression is, like, raising an eyebrow. It's almost like she's like, I'm not satisfied with this, but I'm also not entirely surprised by Alder's behavior at this point. I've known her for way too long. And Nicta says, Sarah stepping down after my execution? How ceremonial of her. And Tally's silent with, like, her arms crossed, eyes glued to her shoes. Like, she, in this moment, Tally, is the most upset person in this jail cell. It's not the person who's about to be executed by Alder, who's now stepping down and, like, running away from all her problems, which is what Nicta was getting at, because she's like, that's what Alder does. I'm not surprised. Nicta's not super emotional by any of this, but Tally's the one who's, like, visibly upset. And I think that part of the reason why she was so upset, you know, in the prior scene and why it's leaking over into this scene is because I feel like Tally feels like she failed Nicta in a way. Because in the prior episode, when they went to capture Nicta, she promised her, like, I'm going to bring you in alive. I'm going to help you tell your story. I'm going to help you bring out the truth. But none of that happened. Tally brought in Nicta, and they're like, great, we're just going to kill you, and the truth will never get out. So I feel like Tally almost feel like she lied to Nicta. She kind of betrayed her in a way. And, like, nothing went the way it was supposed to, essentially, from Tally's perspective. So that's why I think she's so upset. She's taking this as a personal failure, in a way. And I think that's why she came to see Nicta, because she's almost like, I needed to, like, apologize in a way, because, like, I feel like this is kind of my fault.
Tally takes that very seriously.
Yeah.
Giving her word.
Exactly. So I think that's why she's so upset about the truth not coming out, like, right now, because she's, like, kind of emotionally invested in this, and, like, she played a part in this, and now she's potentially going to play a part in the cover-up if they just kill Nicta and this never comes out. So Tally's taking this very, very hard. And I think Nicta senses what's going on with Tally a little bit, because I think they are very similar, and Nicta in this conversation sees herself in Tally and can empathize and relate to her. And so she kind of vocalizes, like, Tally's inner conflict out loud to her and says, what did you think was going to happen, like, when you brought me in? Like, did you think you were going to bring me here? I was going to have a fair trial. The truth was going to come out. Suddenly Alder learns what ethics is. Like, come on, like, be real. And Tally gets really, this is when Tally, like, snaps. And she finally, like, looks at Nicta. Because the whole time she's in there, she didn't really look at Nicta. She was just, like, avoiding her because she's, like, the guilt. But, like, now, like, that's the thing. Like, she's, like, she was hoping the truth was going to come out. She was hoping that Alder was finally going to, like, change and, like, be the hero Tally always saw her as. But that didn't happen at all. And Nicta saying that out loud is, like, confirming Tally's, like, biggest fear and biggest problem with all of this. And she snaps and looks at Nicta and she's like, don't you care that nobody's going to know the truth? Because that's the thing Tally cares about. But, like, Nicta, again, is the one in the actual hot seat here and does it, and is just, like, taking it like it's just a normal Tuesday. And she, like, is just like, you know, whatever. And what's interesting here is that Nicta doesn't answer this question at all. Because I think Nicta does care that the truth gets out. I think that that's the thing that Nicta cared about initially. But I think she got so buried in her quest for vengeance and buried in her hatred directed at, you know, Alder and the system and all that stuff that, like, I think that piece of Nicta kind of got lost in translation as well, like, along this 30-year path of the spree leading up to where we are now. So I think Nicta does care about the truth coming out, but I think she lost the goal of that a long time ago, and it's kind of like, if it happens, it happens. I have a bigger mission. It's just taking this shit down and burning it to the ground. And so Nicta just says, you know, where she's at now, she's like, I think she came to peace with this at some point and was just like, listen, like, one way or another, the sad truth is this whole thing was always going to end with my death. Because Nicta isn't stupid. Like, Nicta is smart. Nicta fucking created the spree. Like, she's smart and clever. And I think she knew at some point when she decided to desert and go on this mission that I think she understood the risk associated with taking on someone as powerful as Sarah Alder, because Sarah Alder is like the most powerful human being in the world. And Nicta at like 20 or whatever was like, I'm gonna fucking come after you. Like, that takes gully, and she had to do a risk assessment there. And I think she understood that, like, by making Sarah an enemy, Sarah was gonna do everything in her power to cover all this shit up and come after her. And so I think Nicta knew that, like, my death was either going to be during this going after Sarah. So either Sarah's going to kill me, or like I'm going to get caught and then the government's going to kill me. Like, either way, I'm going to die. I'm going to die fighting for what I believe in. I think she knew that when she decided to rebel against Alder. And I think that says a lot about who Nicta is. So she's like a true believer and somebody who's willing to die for something she believes in wholeheartedly. So that says a lot about her. And after she kind of delivers this line to Tally, like, Tally is like having a hard time processing all of this, because I don't know what Tally would do truly if she was in Nicta's position and this kind of happened. Like, would Tally have rebelled against Alder? Would she have stayed silent and stewed, which is kind of what she's been doing this whole time a little bit. But I think Nicta kind of has a soft spot for Tally and empathizes with her, because I think she sees Tally as like who she used to be, you know, once upon a time ago. And like, because when we were first introduced to Nicta in the dream, like, Nicta was this young, hopeful soldier who really idolized Alder. So did Tally. You know, she kind of, like, Tally's somebody who sees the best in people, the best in situations. And I think Nicta used to be like that before Alder betrayed her. And now, because of the betrayal with Alder and how Nicta chose to respond to that, she's now lived this really sad, lonely life that's just been fueled by vengeance and nothing else. And so I think Nicta in this moment sees, like, you know, this could be Tally's villain origin story, like, very easily, the way, like, Alder was Nicta's. And so I think Nicta is kind of, like, empathizing with her in this moment. And she tries to, like, soften the blow of, like, the harsh truth for Tally and the reality of all this. And Nicta gets up and approaches the jail wall. Like, she's physically and symbolically reaching out to Tally in this moment, which is something we've never seen Nicta do. So it, like, humanizes Nicta in this moment. And it shows that they have a lot in common, and Nicta recognizes that. And when she does that, when she reaches out to Tally, she projects her life onto Tally, basically, and says what I think Nicta would have loved to have heard right after that martyrdom, and tells Tally, don't let this end you. I know how much it hurts to believe in someone and find out that person isn't who you thought they were. And again, this is Nicta projecting how she felt about Alder. And she tells Tally, live your life and find something to love. This is not your story. Basically telling her, don't become me. Like, I can see that you very easily could become me and go down the road I went down. Don't do it. Like, live your life, fuck Alder, find something to love, and, like, you know, find the little things in life is kind of what she's saying. Like, don't fall down this rabbit hole of just vengeance. Like, otherwise you're going to be in the jail cell like I am one day. And I think Tally kind of, like, gets swept up in this whole sentiment, because the thing Tally loves is justice and the truth, because she's still that wide-eyed, optimistic young woman. And at this point, Tally reaches out to Nicta, and she joins her at the jail wall. So they're like, they just have a thin wall separating them. So it's almost like their connection is becoming stronger. And she's reaching out to Nicta, which I'm sure no one has done to her, Nicta, in decades. And she tells Nicta essentially, like, this whole system is so fucked up. Like, she's going down the rebel path. Like, you can see it. She's like, this is so fucked up. The system's fucked. We need to change it. We need to change everything. And we need to stop fighting each other and fight our actual enemy before it's too late. Because I think Tally's recognizing in this moment, like, we're not so different, you and I, obviously. Why the fuck are we fighting each other? Is what Tally's getting at. She's like, there are external forces that are making us enemies, and that's going to get us all killed. Like, why the fuck are we fighting each other? And I think Nicta kind of gets caught up in this, and the fact that somebody is wholeheartedly reaching out to her in this moment, and she, like, actually sheds a tear, which is wild. But after Tally's outburst and, like, proposition to be like, hey, you should change too, basically, we could work together, Nicta, like, puts her walls back up, and she's like, listen, that was sweet. Good luck with that. But I'm going to die as a martyr for the spree. Like, my whole origin story started when rebels died as martyrs. This is going to end with me dying as a martyr for the spree. And my death is going to inspire more people to join the cause. And plus, Alder stepping down and is going to be in charge. And for me, that's the best win I'm going to get, basically. So I win in the end. This is my win, going out a martyr for the spree. And Tally just looks like livid by this. Like, this reality is making her upset, like really upset. And just, she gets very, very lost in thought. And according to the subtitles, dramatic music starts playing and Tally exits the jail. What a scene.
What a scene.
What a scene. Like,
the bright cell is back.
Yeah. No, they're like, Arlen and Jess, good job. Your acting in the scene is beautiful. The way it was shot, it's just...
Paula.
There's a lot happening in the scene. I think it's very significant to just tying up the past and the present and, like, how do we move forward? Like, in one scene with these two characters. It's probably my second favorite scene in the whole show. It's really phenomenal. The acting was beautiful.
It was.
Yes.
And not just, it's the future, how to move forward with the future, everyone's future, not just.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the bigger picture kind of a conversation. And there's a lot of high emotions in this scene. And so just the acting was just phenomenal. Great job, you two.
It was
that's fun.
Very emotional, but also like controlled in the places that it needed to be controlled, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's that tear, Arlen. Why would you do that to me?
Yeah, like that was rude.
That was rude. Oh yeah, no.
Arlen.
No, they're again. Anytime you give me a scene with heightened emotions, it's just it's just like, yes, acting. They're acting. It's just so good. Like, they let them actually like play that scene very well. So great job, guys.
Love it.
I love it so much.
Speaking of heightened emotions,
oof,
there are very different heightened emotions going on in this next scene.
Oh yeah,
between the two characters. So we go back to Petra and Alder. Petra is still gleeful, like a little. If she wasn't like in her head, just skipping around like in a field full of daisies or something. But Alder says that she's gonna have to address the base, and Petra says, "Oh yeah. The White House is gonna write your statement. Like, there's no way you're gonna slip in any kind of Alder propaganda. So yeah, like, you're gonna read the statement."
When Wade said "you're done," she meant you're done. It's all done.
It's all done. And then Alder asks about the biddy program, and Petra says it will be retired with her. And all the biddies hiss, because that means when the last, biddy dies that is sustaining Alder's life force, if you will, then she goes with it.
Yeah, that's a death sentence for Alder. That's what that is. So the biddies are pissed, but like, you see Alder's just like, oh fuck, yeah, mortality.
What is this mortality? So Petra wants to drill down a little bit and also just get into Alder's thought process and ask, did you have any idea what you were doing with sweeping Nicta under the rug? Like, seriously, Alder, what were you thinking? And then Alder goes into this very it's a great speech, and Lynn gets 95,000 points for this speech because it was really good. And it's basically starts off with her asking Petra how many heads of intelligence that Petra thinks Alder has appointed since she became general. And Petra guesses too low, of course. And then Alder asks, how many wars do you think I've fought? And again, Petra guesses a lower number. And it really comes into reality. 349, 50 years and 80 plus wars. And that's a staggering thing to think about, because it's hard to really wrap your head around the fact that Alder's been alive for that long and all the experiences she must have had and how those experiences have affected her, but also how the droning on, like how repetitive experiences of a somewhat almost immortal life would affect your mind and how you process things and the decisions you make. So basically, in this, what Petra's going to get to is that Alder lost some humanity in those 350 years. But first, Alder's going to give a speech, continue with her speech, and her eyes are all glossy with tears. And this line, there's one line that really got to me, and it's all the horror, all the glory, gone for good. You're ambitious, Petra, and foolish. So she's saying, all of this is going to go away. Like, everything I've done is going to go away. What does it mean to be mortal? She's trying to process and trying to get Petra to realize that she's been playing these games and Alder's been here the whole time, having all this experience with generations of experience. Like, can you really say that your decisions are any better than Alder's? Because these things that you're doing are, petty and foolish, basically. And Petra's reply is, I'm human. Somewhere along the way, I think you forgot that you are too. Welcome back. So it's kind of like a mic drop for Petra.
Oh yeah, she witch mic drops.
She witch mic drops and walks out of there. And I think that this is a conversation that they both needed to have, because I don't think that Petra takes it on board as much as Alder gets mic dropped, but it's like, yeah, realize that in your ambition, you've been going after this position, and it's going to be more than you think it is. The decisions you're going to have to make are going to be life-altering for the people that you are deciding for, because you're directing people's lives in this job. All of the things that Alder's done over the years, that's what she's doing. So it's become sort of a chess game where she's had distance from those, but at the same time, you can tell that she tried to at least keep up a pretense that she felt the same kind of empathy as she did at the beginning, but that's not possible over that long of a lifespan. In my opinion, you can't keep that empathy in place fully. Like, it's just how it is when you're making decisions behind a desk, far away from, and yes, she's been involved personally in some of the wars, but she makes decisions every day about what people are going to do, where they're going to be deployed, all these other things. And I think Petra just needed to be like, hey, but I'm human and so are you. So just realize that, yeah, you're human. You're going to die. Like, every human is supposed to die. Welcome back to the place where you realize that you're fallible. So, yeah.
It's a big old reality check for both of them.
It is.
Yeah, big witch
like,
energy.
Petra, realize that you're not prepared for this job. Alder, realize that you're a freaking human being and you have to own up to that.
Also, it's like a call to the audience, too. Like, remember, the witches are human, everyone.
Yes. Everyone.
They're just human, too.
They're human.
I think that got lost in translation somewhere along the way also for everyone.
Yep.
So, after that big witch energy measuring contest, there's no winner. They both lost, honestly.
There's no winner. They both lose.
Stalemate.
Petra thinks she won, but
yeah, no, there was no winner, guys. You need a rematch. All right, so after Petra and Alder's whatever the fuck that was.
Big witch energy measuring contest in which no one won.
Yeah, the stalemate. We shoot over to Tally, who's in the War College dining room, like nose deep in a textbook. She's getting her like law degree on when Penelope and her new unit come in, and like Penelope's like, because remember Penelope's been on base for a hot minute doing nothing, and Tally's been like showing her around, so she's like showing off the War College area to her unit to be like, this could be us someday, guys. Like, isn't this exciting? Like, she's still enthusiastic about all this, and she's super cute. Like, it's adorable, and her unit's like, oh, we're so excited to start basic, and it's adorable, like the hope of the future kind of thing. So Tally is not really in this conversation. She's worried about the trial the execution that's about to happen, and is like not in this conversation. And she tries to impart words of wisdom onto the silver unit, and it's like this jumbled nothing. And she's basically like, you found your unit. The day you find your unit and they find you, that's good. That's the goodness of the good. And Penelope senses that Tally is being weird because they've spent enough time together. And Penelope's like, hey, unit, besties, why don't you guys like go do whatever? I need to talk to her because she's not okay. And they talk a little bit, and Penelope's like, yeah, execution happening. That's weird, right? It's like the first one in 200 years. Like, are you going to go to it? And Tally's like, well, we all have to go because we don't have a choice because we're soldiers and we have to do what we're told. I don't want to fucking watch this, but we're going to have to be there. Because Tally is upset about this, like, and is more upset after, like, talking to Nicta about this. And so she's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to go, but I don't want to. And then, like, shoves her face back in the textbook and, like, rediscovers the rite of proxy. And then the wheels start turning, and we leave.
Yeah, remember all that mother tongue learning that she had earlier?
Yeah, for those that don't, for just a recall to the rite of proxy, it's essentially a legal term / proceeding that essentially during a legal dispute, you can essentially, like if the main person can't be there, they can assign somebody else to stand in their place for the legal proceeding. So Tally's like, this execution is technically a legal proceeding. So I wonder what she's gonna do. Boom.
Gee, I wonder. But for now, let's go hang out with Petra again. There's a lot of Petra in this episode.
So much Petra.
So much Petra.
I was like, is she gonna die? Why is she getting so much screen time?
Catherine was busy on this episode. And we're going to go to Petra and Abigail this time. So no more Petra and Alder, Petra and Tally. We're going to get a little bit of Abigail. Who is in her mom's old office that she's about to vacate, congratulating her on her promotion. And Petra is feeling her oats. She's a happy general. And she tells Abigail to go to class. And Abigail's like, I'm not going to class. I'm going to the front lines of the fight with the Camarilla. And Petra's like, excuse me, there's no front line yet. Like, what are you talking about? You're going to go to class. You're going to, be a good soldier, learn how to do the soldier things. And that's just how it's going to be. But Abigail's not having any of that. She's like, I've been at the front of the fight with the Camarilla every day since the wedding. And then she proves her point by saying that there was something that she and Adil left out of their debrief, and pulls out Charvel's vocal cords and gives them to her mother, saying that they belong with the rest of Charvel in the Grove. And Petra wells up, a little bit of big emotion for her, and tells Abigail that she has done the family proud, which is a huge thing in their relationship. Like, that's what she's been going for this whole time. Like, not only do I need to do this stuff the way I need to do it, but I want to make my family proud at the same time, her mother proud, etc., etc. So Petra goes on to say that she can't just jump her daughter over the rest of War College. How would that look? And Abigail says, with all due respect, it would look like the rest of War College hasn't taken out a Camarilla facility. So we're back to the Abigail we know and love from last episode, when she kind of smarted off after the other soldiers told her to stay behind, told the cadets to stay back behind. But then she says, we can't wait for the fight to come to us, saying they need to be proactive in this fight with the Camarilla. And Petra kind of comes around and gets the point, and she steps forward, but in a way that's pretty in an almost aggressive way, which prompts Abigail to step back. But it's not a negative way that Petra was going forward. Petra's literally going forward to say, okay, we're going to go forward with how you want to play this. Tell me what you need to get started, soldier. So this is Petra approaching Abigail instead of Abigail having to approach Petra and saying, okay, what do you need? I'm going to support you. Go do the thing, win the war kind of situation. Instead of trying to tell Abigail what to do, she's saying, okay, this is what you want to do. What do you need from me?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's good for, like, their mother-daughter dynamic, but it's also weird from the perspective of,
it doesn't
like,
make any sense!
No, it doesn't make sense from the perspective of the military hierarchy, because, like, what is she endorsing? Like, yes, War College cadet, you could just go rogue.
Make it make sense!
It's so weird. But, like, is Petra just drunk off of hating Alder? And she's like, yeah, I'm gonna be so different from Alder. Fuck that hierarchy. Like, I don't get this. Because, like, you all know, if this wasn't her daughter having this conversation with her, Petra would never agree to any of this.
So,
whatever it is she's agreeing to.
My backup question is, okay, is she agreeing to this to then gonna go ahead behind Abigail's back and try to rein it back in? So she's just saying, okay, I got you, but I'm gonna kind of keep you from getting into trouble in the background. That's my only way to make it make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any fucking sense. But I get the sentiment. I think the main takeaway is not the words they're saying, but it's more so, like, the sentiment that, like, Petra is seeing her daughter as, like, you know, her own, not independent is kind of not the right word, but, like, seeing her as less of, like, you're my daughter, do what I say, and more like, okay, you're one of my soldiers, maybe I should listen to you, like, versus Alder that just, like, dismissed everybody and dismissed Petra for so long. Petra's like, okay, soldier who's fought for us, like, yes, I will take your point into consideration kind of thing. So big step from just her being like, Abigail, just do what I say, follow the bellwether playbook, and blindly, don't ask questions. She's like, okay, Abigail, let's take your plan into consideration, see if we can work with that. So it's a big step in their relationship that she's not just dismissing Abigail. She's, like, having an actual, like, they're almost like, they're not on an equal playing field, but it's almost like she's seeing her almost more like an equal, not just, like, her daughter, an extension of her kind of thing. So that's big. But, like, the plan makes no fucking sense.
No, not at all.
Ignore the words. It's not about the words, it's about the sentiment.
It bothered me.
It bothers me because it comes back later, and I'm like, like, what the fuck? Anyway, it's so weird. It's almost, she's like, yeah, go rogue, it's fine. Like, that's not fine. That's not how the army works.
No.
It's so weird.
No. Okay.
All right, so after that mother-daughter conversation, We shoot on over to the Necro Lab, where Isadora is chest deep in some cadaver with her minions hanging around. And Raylla interrupts this lesson. How did she get in? She keeps getting into the Necro Lab, and I don't know how. Did they leave the door open?
Witch bomb. She has free reign.
True. I guess the mycelium's like, I can open that door for you now, Raylla. You come on by, whatever the fuck you want, girl. So, yeah, somehow Raylla interrupts Isadora mid-Necro lesson. And she's like, listen, I need to talk to you about this whole, like, me going on a publicity tour thing. And Isadora's got, like, her hands in this chest cavity. And she's like, listen, Raylla, I told you in the last scene that, like, I'm not super in charge of any of this. Like, I was ordered to give you a folder. Like, the orders didn't come from me. They came from somebody else. Like, maybe talk to Alder's assistant. That's who's really in charge. Like, if you want answers. Like, what are you doing here? And Raylla's like, listen, whatever. I'll wait till you're done with your lesson because I need answers. And, like, apparently you're the person I need to talk to, even though Isadora is not the person she needs to talk to. This is also a weird scene.
Yeah. Just a way to get Raylla close to the mycelium.
Yes, and giving Isadora scenes, which I'm not mad about. But whatever.
I'm not mad about it.
I'm not mad. Isadora is like, whatever, Raylla, I need to teach my minions about dead bodies. So she goes back to doing that. And Raylla's like, I'll wait. And she goes around the corner. She doesn't watch the lesson. She's like, I can't watch this. It's gross. And goes around the corner and, like, looks away while it's happening. And she's there for, like, a hot second, just, like, ignoring the sounds of just, like, cadaver getting explored behind her. And she, like, gets distracted or picks up on something coming from the mycelium room.
Yeah, there's like a little singing going on.
Yeah, I don't know if she hears something or, like, senses something somehow, but she's like, I have to go into the mycelium room for reasons. So she does. And she gets in front of it, and, like, the mycelial wall extends a hand out to her. Like, the first time they touched and exchanged DNA, it does that again. Instead of, like, a finger, it gives a palm. So Raylla's like, all right, I will take your hand, because why not? And when she does that, the white hyphated hand transforms into a human hand. And then Willa Collar's face comes out of the mycelium, and she smiles at Raylla, and then they're transported inside the fungatorium. Like, the mycelium took Raylla's consciousness inside of itself, and instead of being in that, like, blue, pink room that she was in during the torture scenes, it's like she's in this memory, almost, like, fungatory memory, and the lighting in the scene is very blue, and when the actors are talking you see, like, the breath misting, so it's almost like this cold, like, underworld kind of place, hence, like, the lighting and the coldness. So they're in the mycelial underworld in this memory. And while they're there, Willa and Raylla hug each other, and Willa's explaining, like, listen, I'm still dead, this isn't real life, I'm dead, this is the fungatory, and I'm still here because of the strongest part of me that's, like, hanging around in the mycelium. And the strongest part of me was my love for you. Hence why I'm manifesting to you. And Raylla gets into her feels and is like, well, why the fuck are we even here? Like, you were supposed to stay with me, like, in real life, not in fungatory. And Willa Collar explains, listen, back in the Camarilla lab with the witch plague, you know as well as I do that only one of us was getting out of that room alive. Only one of us. And, like, it had to be you that left because we need you to live on. And, like, boom. We. Indicating this isn't Mama Collar. Because if this was Mama Collar, she would have said, I need you to live on because I love you and you're my daughter. But the language is, we need you to live on. So this is showing us that, like, this really isn't Willa Collar. Like, this is a piece of her consciousness talking to Raylla through the mycelium. And Raylla and Willa will never, ever, ever have an actual conversation because Willa is straight up dead and I hate it. But, like, this is, like, the best analogy I can think of is, like, in the 100 when, like, Clark sees Lexa after Lexa's killed, she sees her in the City of Light and they have this whole conversation and it's like, well, that's not her. That's a manifestation from this, like, external thing. So that's what's happening here. This isn't, like, Willa and Raylla having a conversation. This is the mycelium talking through Willa to talk to Raylla. It's fucked up and I hate it. And
we hate it here.
I hate it here. I really hate it. I hate it so much. And Raylla is all of us. And she's like, we, what the fuck are you talking? Who is this we you speak of? Oh, my fire alarm's going off. Hold on.
No.
Oh, no, wait. All right, no fire.
That's good.
I have sad dogs now. Our fire alarm is dumb, and it's, like, really sensitive to anything. It goes off all the time. All right. Suki, where was I?
Suki, tell us.
Tell us, Suki. The noise is scary.
I
was the we. Okay, so Raylla is all of us, and she's like, we, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? Who is this we speak of? And Willa brushes past this question. And she's like, instead of me explaining in one word who we is, let me show you how it all began, because that's more dramatic. And so Willa plays out this memory that they're in, as our Willa / the mycelium plays out this memory that they're in, and shows Raylla how the mycelium came to be, essentially. It's like showing Raylla its own origin story, so it's like low-key bragging. It's like, haha, here's my birth story. And basically what happened was, in the dream, we see Sarah Alder bawling her eyes out amongst a group of, like, witches burning at the stake. And the mycelium via Willa explains that, like, so, you know, Sarah Alder came back after winning this victory against the British, so I assume this is, like, Revolutionary War time. And when she came back, her entire coven, I guess, or platoon, or whatever, group of soldiers...
They said coven in the scene.
I know she said that her coven was killed, but I couldn't remember if this was the coven or if this is just, like, a group of witches.
I thought this was, like, her first coven. I could be wrong.
I'm not entirely sure, because, like, they go on later where, like, the mycelium's like, you know, Sarah lost everything, her sister, her first coven. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, this could be the coven, I'm not really sure. It seems like a lot of people for a coven, but regardless, there's a bunch of, like, 20 witches, like, burning at the stake, and Sarah's bawling because, like, basically she won some victory for humanity and then comes back and the Camarilla killed all of her sisters, basically. And she's bawling her eyes out. And in this grief that she has for the fallen witches, she sings this song of just pure grief. And when she did that, it, like, altered something in the space-time continuum and essentially created the mycelium from those dead witches. So it took the best part of them, shoved them underground, and it created this, like, living mycelium, which is, like, what we have today that just kept expanding. And Raylla does quick math during this thing, and she's like, oh, so this is where all the witches go when they died. We become part of the mycelium. This is what happens. And Willa / the mycelium is like, yep, that's what happens. And over this spot where the mycelium was born, that's where Alder built Fort Salem, like over this burial site. And Willa explains, like, and, you know, when witches die, we end up in the mycelium. And now we're all living through you, Raylla, so that our ancient enemy can finally be defeated and the Great War can be won. So this is the mycelium revealing its true agenda to Raylla, that the mycelium is on a revenge mission for the OG witches who were killed by the Camarilla when the mycelium was first created, and they're using Raylla as their champion, their chosen one, their conduit for their work to enact this revenge mission and to wield their power. And they're dubbing, I guess, the Great War as this final battle of witches versus the Camarilla, which, because, like, I can't tell if this is, like, a prophesized thing through magic or if it's more like this is the inevitability of where it has to go. There has to be this great war that just ends this shit once and for all, because we both can't exist on this planet together, essentially. And so after the mycelium tells Raylla what it wants and why it chose her and what it's really doing, the mycelium's like, great, fake Willa, great job, you did your thing, now it's time to leave, no more talking to your daughter. And it kicks Raylla out of the fungatorium into the real world. And Raylla's back in the mycelium room, just, like, having another emotional breakdown, because that was a lot. That was a lot to take in, and, like, Alder's grief was palpable, and, like, her mom was there, and poor Raylla. And so as she's, like, reeling in 3 seconds from being kicked out of there, Isadora marches in the room, like, girl, what the fuck? Like, how many times do I have to scold you for being in this mushroom room and touching the wall? Like, how many times do you have to have the conversation? I'm so tired of this. And Raylla doesn't even notice Isadora. She just, like, starts gushing and panicking. She's like, do you smell the burning? Like, there's fire. There's smoke. Like, it's everywhere. They're everywhere. My mom was with them. She's a part of them. They're part of me. Like, they gave me this gift, and I'm not going to let anyone tell me how to fucking use this thing. Like, I love this part because not just the panic, which is enjoyable, but, like, she uses the word gift, which was Scylla's language for what the mycelium power was. So Scylla's in her brain. And also, this is Raylla embracing her destiny, finally. She's like, it's a gift. I have this power. I'm gonna fucking do what I want with it, which also doesn't make any sense, but sure. I'm happy Raylla is, like, accepting her role in the greater good kind of battle thing and just, like, not... She's taking control, finally, I guess is what it is. Because this whole time she's been like, this is out of my control. This wall chose me. But now she's like, okay, I've been chosen. I'm going to take control of this situation and wield this the way I want to instead of being anybody's puppet. And
sure, Raylla. And that's what's going to happen.
Right. No, none of these conversations with the unit people make any sense. You're still a puppet. You're the mycelium literally just told you, you are our puppet.
The mycelium just told you, I'm using you.
Right. But Raylla's like, fine, you use me, I'm going to use you right back. Like an eye for an eye. We're going to go with Nycta's logic here. And Isadora is watching all of this. This is all out of context. All of the stuff she's saying to Isadora. And Isadora's like, who the fuck is we? Like, what do you mean smoke? There's burning in my lab. Like, didn't you come here to talk to me about the recruiting tour? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And Raylla's like, recruiting tour? No, fuck that recruiting tour. I'm not going to go. And she turns around to leave. And Isadora's like, that's above both of our pay grades, cadet, which is what I've been trying to tell you this whole fucking time. And I don't know why you're in my lab. And Raylla just marches out like, no, it isn't. Wait, this episode should have been called Delusional for how Raylla and Abigail are behaving. Like, they own the fucking army. And it's like, this whole scene was so bizarre and weird. I love it, but it's so weird. And we have to end this by talking about what was Isadora doing off screen, because I think she has been puzzled by all of this. Like, all of it. And this whole encounter was like the last straw for her. And I think she spent at least an hour in that room trying to figure out what the fuck happened. And she's like, what was burning? Like, she's checking stuff. She's like, smoke in my lab? What the fuck? And she like scoured that whole room. And who's we? Like, who was in this room with the mycelium? And like, I think she's having like this identity crisis because she didn't know what the fuck was happening. Her precious wall is like in jeopardy. Raylla is also leaving. So that means that Isadora is losing her experiment time with Raylla, and she's like, maybe we can do long distance experimenting. I don't know. Like, she's having a whole identity crisis, and then Raylla gives this weird performance that's out of context, like insinuating all this weird stuff. And so I think Isadora had like a little bit of a breakdown in that room trying to figure out what the fuck was happening. And just, she's like, had to psych herself up at the end. Because, like, this is also out of her control. Like, all this stuff is being dictated to her above her pay grade. And she's like, I'm head necro. I'm the boss. This is my experiment. Like, anyway, so poor Isadora had, like, a breakdown after that. Because that made no sense to her, like, whatsoever.
One of her assistants walked in and found her crying on the mycelium floor.
And silently closed the door.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I was like, no, I'm not getting involved in whatever this is.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
But it's funny, because my what was blank character doing off screen also comes up now with the mycelium. Mine is Libba.
Libba!
So, what is Libba doing in the mycelium?
Yes.
What really should be the title of it. So, as we found out, the best part of witches lives on in the mycelium, and in this case, it's Libba's love/hate for Abigail.
Oh yeah, that's 100% what is living in the mycelium.
So Libba's in this little corner of the whole mycelium fungatorium with her newly minted Abigail shrine. Because she had to go and like
redo it.
redo it because she's obviously not on the like living plane anymore. But I imagine since it's the mycelium, she can kind of come up with things herself. And so she's created her little Abigail shrine. And the whole time she's hearing all of this singing and like smelling burning. And it's like, what the is going on? And like she comes out of her little area and peeks and she sees Raylla and she's like, nope.
No, fuck this.
Fuck this. I'm not going to be a part of it. And she goes right on back to her tending to changing the flowers on her Abigail shrine.
Wait, what happened when Abigail came into the mycelium room? Was Libba like, oh shit, how do I make a hand and reach for her?
Yeah, Libba's like, Raylla, tell me how to do
it!
Tell me how to do the hand.
Ah, damn it, she's gone, Isadora!
Damn it! She was right there.
Or it's like she was actually in the part like that was actually behind the wall, and so she was trying to reach, but it wasn't working because like she's like, behind the wall.
This is not fair.
It's not fair. Fuck you, Willa. Yeah, that was 100% what was happening off screen. And then Libba was also like, smoke around my, like, she had to like protect the shrine.
Yeah, exactly. So she's like, no, we will close the door. We will put a towel under. This is not going to happen.
Libba was not having a good day in the mycelium,
No.
is what I'm gathering.
Yeah, not only has she missed the chance to see Abigail, to touch Abigail, she was like, felt like her shrine was burning.
She did.
Jesus.
Poor Libba.
Lesbian Jesus.
Hydrate yourselves.
I just did. Yeah. All right, so from Libba in the mycelium, we're going to go to another Petra. She's back.
So many scenes. Jesus Christ.
So many Petras.
So many Petra scenes. So Team Petra, soak all this in.
Yes. And we got Anacostia this time. So Petra's overseeing some preparations for the execution, I think. Maybe, hey, it's an event. Like, we're on the... This is like calling back to when executions were public events, like back in the day in Europe. So, okay, sure. But Anacostia comes up and they have a little cute exchange where you find out that Anacostia is now the head of intelligence and has been promoted to captain. And Petra asks Anacostia how the new initiative against the Camarilla is shaping up. But Anacostia, who is now intelligence, says, that's need to know. So, just kind of saying, yeah, that's how it's going to be. And Petra is like, intelligence suits you. And then you're going to be good at this. And so she walks off, and then guess who comes up to have a little flirt with Anacostia? It's Sterling, the fellow that we heard about all the way back in season 1. Anacostia's old flame, or dalliance, whatever.
Really? She talked about Sterling?
Yeah.
When?
Wasn't it when they were talking? Yeah, there's a point where she says that someone points out that Anacostia had a thing with Sterling.
Oh, I didn't know that. I know she mentioned Channing Grafton, who we've all met. I don't remember when she talked about Sterling.
I'm going to have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure.
Let us all know. I was like, wow, you forgot about Channing so fast.
Well, you know. Somebody had something with Sterling. This is going to bother me. Okay, anyway. So, Sterling turns out on Silver's detail, which I'm assuming means he's Secret Service. So, witches are the Secret Service, too. And Anacostia kind of tries to play it coy, but Sterling is like, yeah, don't pretend like you don't keep track of me. Like, you know where I am. You know where I've been. And he switches to talking about how the Bataan mess is like, well, this got out of control, basically. Like, wow, this is crazy. And Anacostia is like, well, it's worse than you even know. So, yeah. And then he's trying to kind of wheedle some information out of her, but she says, if I tell you that, I'm going to have to kill you. And he's like, leans in all smooth and is like, well, then I'd die a happy man. I'm like, all right, smooth move, Sterling.
He is thirsty.
Go for it. He is a thirsty mofo, and I don't blame him, because look at Anacostia.
Yep.
Also, the whole captain's bars look really good on her.
They sure do. Should have probably had those sooner. She deserves
a promotion.
Yeah.
She should have.
Yeah.
She deserves a promotion after having to deal with the unit, okay?
Well, also, like, her mission with Scylla just, like, really proved herself. Like, she's
Absolutely
good at espionage. She actually is. So, good on you.
She found her thing. So, yeah, that was just, a nice little scene to establish that there's some kind of history there and that they're flirty. And then Anacostia got promoted.
Captain Quartermain in the house.
Captain Quartermain.
She deserves it.
She does.
Alrighty. So while Anacostia is getting promoted and getting her man on or whatever, flirting on, meanwhile in the session, the gang is at a diner. It's Scylla, a Papa Collar, Quinn, Tiffany, and a Dodger family, I guess, or Dodgers. And things are going well. The Quinn is introducing Tiffany to her new Dodger family, or group of Dodgers, to get her to a family. And Papa Collar and Scylla are at a booth, and he comments to Scylla that what she did for Tiffany was something really big and really wonderful. And he is like, wow, what you did is really great. Like, you should be proud of that, basically. And Scylla must feel so seen, because she's actually getting praised for once.
Yes!
I know, like, proud of you, girl. Like, you do a lot of good, and no one ever gives you credit. So thank you, Papa Collar, for actually giving Scylla credit for her good deeds. And he's clearly, like, impressed with her character, and is like, listen, like, after this whole Tiffany situation is done, like, you can continue staying with me if you want to, like, despite whatever trouble you've gotten yourself in, because I'm not dumb. I know witches and the rules, and you should probably be in the army. You're my daughter's age. Like, you're not in the army. You're probably in some trouble. So, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, if you want to stay, you can stay. Like, I think you're a good person, basically, is what he's saying. And Scylla, like, politely declines, because she's like, listen, I am Trouble. It's my middle name, and I don't want to cause you trouble, because you're a good person, too. And he's like, no, listen, like, if you're a part of my little girl's life, then you're a part of mine. So, like, mi casa, su casa is what he's saying. And Scylla completely melts, like, because, like, she's finally getting, like, love and acceptance that she fucking deserves from Papa Collar. And, yeah, Raylla gets her U-hauling skills from her dad. That is confirmed in this scene.
Love it.
So as
this is, like, my favorite scene in this episode.
It's very cute. And as they're, like, bonding, Quinn comes over, and she's like, yep, it's done. Tiffany's going with those Dodgers. And Tiffany runs after her and comes over to Scylla and is really shy and cute, and gives Scylla her little stuffed bird. And she's like, so you'll remember me, which is super sweet, but also naive, because Scylla is 100% going to lose that, and Tiffany should have kept it. Yeah. And so, throwing this out there to everybody, let us know, we're taking bets, let us know, how much time elapsed between this scene and Scylla losing the bird? Like, how much time did you give her? Let us know.
I don't know. I kind of feel like Scylla has it somewhere semi-safe. Like, that girl is, like, got this stuffed animal. That thing Tiffany had that in that one scene with Willa, so, I don't know.
Yeah, they again, like, Scylla picked it up from Tiffany's house, gave it to her to calm her down. It got to the safe house because Tiffany held on to it. But Scylla loses gifts, so she's going to lose this bird, is what I'm saying. So how long before she loses the bird? Because she's going to lose it.
I give her at least till about the beginning of season 2.
I give her 5 minutes.
Season 2? Through season 3.
5 minutes. She lost it when they are in the next scene. Like, there's no way. She went to shove it into her backpack, and it didn't make it into the backpack. It's still in that diner. I don't think it made it out of the diner. That's just me. Let us know, listeners, how long before Scylla loses the bird, because she's going to lose it.
Ah, jeez.
So after...
I want to have faith in her.
she's going to lose it. She loses all gifts. It's part of her character trait. So after Tiffany gives her the bird that's going to get lost,
Tiffany gives her the bird.
Tiffany you should have hung onto that, girl. She hugs Scylla, and it's really sweet. And then she leaves with Papa Collar and the Dodgers. And Scylla hangs back with Quinn, and she's like, hey, listen, I need to take you somewhere, because I got to show you something. And Quinn, like, doesn't have an expression. She's like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah, what is her expression? On? Where are you taking me?
Yeah, she's like, danger, danger. But
I just met you.
I thought you were going to leave. You're trouble. But Quinn goes with her, and they end up in this courtyard outside where there's like at least a dozen people like hanging out. And Quinn is probably like, cool, you brought me to see civilians? Novel. This is so brand new information.
Okay.
And Scylla there's no words exchanged, but after like a hot second, a murder of crows flies overhead, and there's augmented squawking that happens, and all the people in the square freeze for like a hot second, and then they partner up and start waltzing in this courtyard. Except for the dog that somebody brought, who starts barking because he's like, what the fuck? Like, we're supposed to go on a walk. As their human is waltzing with a stranger. So that's happening. And the camera pans to Scylla and Quinn. And Scylla is conducting this whole thing with her little finger, which is adorable, indicating she's orchestrating this whole thing. But how is she doing it? And we find out how. Her little bird friend lands on top of the trash can next to her. And Scylla winks at him like, good job, buddy. And Quinn is super impressed. Like, okay, so this was you and the bird. Cool. What do you call whatever the fuck this is? And Scylla says, Morrigan's Whisper. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to that in a second. And Quinn's like rubbing her hands like, great, we can use this against the Camarilla. And Scylla just smiles without saying anything, but her smile is basically like, yeah, exactly, bitch. Because Scylla, Big Witch Energy Ramshorn, is casually inventing new magic we can use against the Camarilla. That's the whole point. Glad you agree. And now that it's a great scene, it's super cool. Scylla and her bird.
Scylla and her bird, and the bird is, I love that the bird just goes back and forth over the crowd like 3 times. And that's all it took for all of those civilians to just be like, whoop.
He's a perfectionist.
He is.
So now that we have the name Morrigan, so it's unclear to me if that's the bird's name or if that's what she calls the work. Because the name Morrigan is very significant, so I could go either way with this. But we mentioned Morrigan in like season 1, episode 2, when we talked about the scene. And so let's circle back to like who the Morrigan really is, and I think why this figure is really important, and it's supposed to like allude to Scylla and what's going to happen potentially in season 3. So who's the Morrigan? The Morrigan is a figure in Irish/Celtic mythology. She is a female goddess, essentially. And the name Morrigan roughly translates to the Phantom Queen. So the Morrigan was associated with war, death, and destiny. So Scylla, the Necro. And now we're entering the era of the Great War. And she's a harbinger of destiny. So I think this is Scylla's role in what's going to happen going forward in season 3 through like the Morrigan myth. And the Morrigan is somebody who was a gifted shapeshifter. So we saw that with Scylla's spree work. She can shapeshift into other things. And the Morrigan herself was known to favor, as her favorite thing to shapeshift into was a crow. So hence the black bird. So that's what's tying this all together. The Morrigan is also known as a triple goddess. And so I talked about this before, but I think the triple goddess is like the unit. And so like, this is how you get this core 4 kind of thing. It's like the Morrigan and then her 3 forms the triple goddess. So together they're going to make this one big unit that's going to play a role in the battle to come. because the other piece of the Morrigan is she was also not just this goddess of death, but she was also like a goddess of war. And she's described as being this goddess who could predict the death of warriors in battle. So she would often like go out to like battlefields and like perform this ritual, and then to let the soldiers know if they were going to live or die, kind of thing. So the necro in the battle. And she's somebody who could influence the outcomes of war. So I think this Morrigan's Whisper is essentially indicating that this work she's created is going to influence the war to come, hopefully in the witch's favor. Hence Morrigan's Whisper influencing the outcome of the war. And according to this legend, like whenever she would deliver this message, kind of in this warrior sense, she would appear as a crow a lot of the times and fly overhead during the war. And it's said that like her appearance would either terrify those fighting or inspire them to fight. So like I think that that's really key. So like hence this particular magic where you have the crow or the flock of the murder, whatever, flying overhead, signifying the coming of the Morrigan. And some will either be afraid of it, hence her enemies, or it will inspire the witches fighting for her to be like, yes, we have this work on our side. We can win this. So I think that Scylla is going to play a big role in the big battle to come. Like Raylla is going to be the foot soldier of like the warrior of destiny or whatever. And then Scylla is the one that influences how the battle goes through her work with the crows. So helping Raylla and then the unit by extension that will be with Raylla. So I think this particular line is so like foreshadowy. It's almost comical and I love it. Thank you, Elliot, for this. So that's the Morrigan. And I think the purpose of this particular work and how it's going to play into the battle with the Camarilla.
I'm in love with it. I've been waiting for you to be able to explain this for a long ass time. So I'm here for it.
Yes. And we'll talk about it a lot more in our spec episode when we talk about like season 3 in particular, but just like a little hint, like that's what this scene really is. And that's what it's really like. Scylla, first of all, decides to do the gayest demonstration ever. And she's like, I'm going to make people dance, which is so gay, and I love it. As her showing off the work in a harmless manner to Quinn. But Quinn immediately picks up on the fact that, oh, we can use this in war. And that's really what it is. It's like, yeah, I can influence people to do whatever the fuck I want, but really I'm trying to show you what I can do to win a war, kind of thing.
Yes.
And by naming it Morrigan's Whisper, it's very much telling the audience, like, yeah, this is a battle thing. This is a harbinger of death kind of thing, a changing the tides of destiny kind of thing. There's a lot laced into just naming it that. And I find it really interesting that Scylla comes up with that name. I think that she really took the time to think about something like that when she named it, because it's not a random name. Like, she must have known, like, this figure or this goddess or whatever when she named this work this. So I love that. She strikes me as the type of like thoughtful person that would think about something like that before naming it. Because she didn't name any of her other works. She didn't be like, hey, Raylla, this is witch texting. She was just like, no, I want to talk to you. I didn't even name this fucking thing. It's just, it is what it is. She named this work. Scylla doesn't name her work. Like, that's really interesting. And really, it's interesting and also like weird for like Quinn to be like, what do you call it? Like, why would you ask her that? It's obviously mind trickery. Like, what do you mean, what do I call it? Do you name your work?
It's a bird that makes people do shit that I want.
Yeah, it's weird that she named it and that Quinn asked. The dialogue is weird in this episode, but I understand. We need to do it for plot reasons. So yeah, the fact that Scylla named this work, we've never seen her do that before, I think is very significant. And basically Elliot dry snitching on himself about like where this is headed.
Yep.
Yeah. Love it.
Love it. The myths. Oh. I love crows. Like IRL, I love crows. I've always have. So
they're smart.
The fact that Scylla gets to play with crows.
They're smart as fuck too.
They really are.
They really are. They're all over the place where I live, and they're really fucking smart. I love them.
They're all over the place here too. I feed them with corn. So from Scylla and the Morrigan of Destiny, we're gonna go to the big scene of the episode, the execution. Exactly. Sigh. Deep sigh.
Deep sigh. hate it.
Yep. So we've got Alder walking in with the biddies, and she walks all the way up to where there's a little stage, and you've got all of the people that you would imagine on the stage: the president, the vice president, Petra, Anacostia, etc., etc. And Wade nods to Alder once she gets close enough. And then Alder turns, and we see Nicta is tied to a post in the middle of all this, and on either side of her are army people and cadets. So they're in like a hangar or something with that they've set up for this execution. And Alder starts her little speech by saying that she takes no pleasure in ending a witch's life, but Nicta is no mere witch. She is a murderer, and her crimes cannot go unanswered. And then you got shots of all like the army people in the crowd who are looking, you know, not that happy about this, and especially Tally. And we go back to Alder, who says that her death will be a signal to the spree that we will hunt them and end them. So everyone in the army starts to stomp during this, but in like a different way than you kind of hear them normally stomp, except for the unit. They don't stomp at all. And she goes on to say that with 3 strikes, Nicta will meet the goddess. 1 for the heart, 1 for the head, and 1 for the soul. And at this point, Alder is swinging her scourge around just to kind of show everyone that this is how it's going to go down. The crystal lights up. We're all ready to go. And she's about to take her first swing at Nicta, who's just looking like accepting her fate. All right, this is going to happen. Like, I'm dying a martyr. Here we go. But Tally cannot contain it and takes this moment to yell, "Stop!" just as Alder's about to strike Nicta. And everyone turns to her, and she steps forward, and Alder is like, "What are you doing?" And then Tally invokes the right of proxy in mother tongue. And we see Wade on stage like, "Hey, Petra, what the fuck's going on? You need to get this back on track." And Petra's like, no can do. Like, this is between them now, meaning Alder and Tally. Like, she's invoked the right of proxy. This is a witch thing. It's in our laws. You can't do anything about it. So Alder tells Tally that she doesn't want to hurt her, and Tally's like, "Well, you're going to have to, unless you want to tell everyone the truth." So she's giving Alder an opportunity to let it all out instead of having this fight between the two of them, Tally as Nicta's proxy. So she's basically saying, my life for Nicta's life, which is what the last part of the right that she invoked meant. My life for her life. So Alder's like, "Okay, fine. I guess I don't want to do this," but Tally, like, Alder's about to turn around and be like, "Ugh." But Tally gets her scourge out and hits Alder across the cheek with it, which is like, oh, no, you didn't.
Oh, that gave me literal chills when Tally did it, struck her first. Like, oh.
Exactly. And Tally, basically it's Tally saying, "No, bitch, I'm serious. Like, this is for real. You're not going to kill her unless you kill me.
Thank you.
Like, you're going to have to go through me."
Thank you, Tally. Sappho thanks you for saving me.
Yes, exactly. So they have a little spar, but Alder's obviously been doing this for 350 years. She easily defeats Tally, headbutts her, which, ow, And she's ready to kill Tally. And right before she says, or right before she does it, she says, and one for the head. Raylla screams no and steps forward. And with her, like, I don't know if they all fucking planned this, but I think Tally didn't, in my mind, Tally didn't tell anybody what was going down.
No.
Raylla just knows mother tongue now because of the mycelium. And so she starts to invoke the right of proxy for Tally. And then Abigail mirrors the last words of it. And then Gregario. And then M. And then all the cadets start to step forward. So there's this domino effect of people saying, no, Alder, it's enough. We're going to stop this here. We're not going to kill any more witches. We're not going to kill Nicta. And that gives Tally an opportunity to say what she needs to say. So she tells Nicta's story of betrayal with Alder. And then Abigail kind of takes over and says, if Nicta is killed, it's one less witch in the world, which is what the Camarilla wants. For us to keep killing each other while they sit back and watch. And then Tally takes back over. Nicta should pay for her crimes, but not like this. She's not the only guilty one here, Alder. Hello, you've done just as bad. You've done just as bad, and you're the one that gets to kill Nicta and punish her for her crimes. I don't think so. So Wade looks down and tells Alder if she doesn't do this, then the civilian government will just carry it out themselves. And Anacostia, like, Alder shook at this point. Like, all of these cadets have just stepped forward to basically say no ma'am. So it's further crumbling, and it's further like letting her know that, yeah, her time is over in that capacity as general leader of the army.
I think there's another read to it also. I totally agree with what you're saying, but I think the other thing too that may strike a bit of a chord with Alder, because like Penelope said, it's been 200 years since like there's been an execution, but like back in Alder's day, like witch executions happened left and right. Like that's how she lost her sister. And so it's almost like this scenario is playing out where like a witch is about to be executed for being a witch, basically. But all the witches save her. Like this is something Alder would have like dreamed of happening to her sister. Like it's like history is repeating itself, but like in a better way from what Alder's used to seeing, where witches just die, or like Alder has to save herself. But it's like all the witches gather together to save the one witch. It's like the thing she always wanted. It's like her her sisterhood, her daughters saving each other, you know. So exactly. It's unfortunate it's against her, but like I think she can kind of like see the bigger picture here based on the language she says after this. So she's like, wow, like you guys are willing to save each other. That's what I always wanted for witches, really. So
exactly. It's telling her it's okay to let go and step away.
Yeah.
Because they've got this.
Yeah.
And Anacostia steps down and puts her hand on Alder's shoulder and says, General. And then there's a few beats for a pause, and then she says, Sarah. So she's once again saying, Sarah, the human.
Right.
Like, it's time. So Alder starts to give, like, her parting speech. My fellow soldiers, I'm sorry I brought us to this place. Our ancient enemy has taken advantage of the conflict between us to fester and spread like an infection that threatens to kill us on my watch. I was worried that I was leaving you unprepared for the future, but you're more ready to face it than I ever was. Do not make the same mistakes I have, and please never forget that we are also human. So I have chills right now just reading that. But Alder's turning. She's saying, okay, I accept this. You guys have got this. Don't make the mistakes I did. So she's kind of mirroring Nicta's speech to Tally in that regard. Like, don't do the things that I did. You've got like, be better. And then Alder turns to Petra and strips off her general's bars. And Petra tells her, "We will meet the Camarilla with storm and fury." And Tally repeats, "With storm and fury." And then everyone repeats it and they stomp. And we get one last shot of Alder walking away. So it's the biggest thing for Alder to just say, okay, this is where we're at. I've done, all I can. I've made mistakes. I've had triumphs. You guys, I will let go and turn it over to you. It's very symbolic. This entire scene is full of symbolism up to the brim. And I love it.
It's Alder's ultimate witch mic drop.
Yes, it is. And thank God for Renee.
Her acting was incredible. And thank you, Circumstance, for saving Nicta's life. So Nicta lives, guys. She lives.
Nicta lives!
Nicta lives! She's too sexy to die, which is what I screamed at the television the first time I watched this. So, yay.
Really? I can see it. And the dogs are like, what?
It's like, you can't kill her.
Mom's yelling.
And they didn't, because thank you, Sappho. So we get Nicta. But yeah, what a move. And what I don't truly understand about this, and maybe it's a witch law thing, is why this wasn't televised. Like, I figured this would be like the thing, like, Wade would want to broadcast to the country to be like, we're killing the spree leader. Watch it.
I wondered that too, but then I thought,
it's for the best it didn't happen, but
yeah,
I figured they'd do it.
I think it's just that it's not customary to show it that, like, maybe it's not customary to show an execution, like, on screen. They'll just say, hey, this happened.
I mean, there hasn't been an execution in 200 years, and they used to be in public forums, so
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like Wade would want to publicize this, but it's for
I do too.
For the best it was not.
Oh well.
Anyway, so after that execution that wasn't an execution, we cut on over to somewhere in Fort Salem where Penelope is being prepped for the interview, I guess, because it's like, the press is there. It's very weird. So the press is there, but they didn't watch the execution. Sure. But they're going to talk to Penelope because she's the vice president's daughter. And there's a dude fiddling with her uniform, and he somehow pricks her while fiddling with her uniform. Somehow, mysteriously. And the dude says, oops, and it's Albin's voice, so that can't be good. And he leaves. And VP Silver comes in, and she's like, you know what, she's tough, she'll be fine. Get out of here. And VP Silver is the grossest human ever. And he's here to say goodbye to his daughter because he's trash and knows what's about to happen to her. And they make small talk, and he's basically like, well, thanks for talking to the press after all this stuff. Like, are you okay considering what the fuck just happened? And Penelope very confidently is like, yeah, like, there's no place I'd rather be. Because she found her place, she found her voice, and these are her people. And she's like, yeah, I'm with witches. I'm a witch. I'd rather be here than anywhere else. And he starts crying because he's the devil. And she calls him out and is like, are you okay, father of mine? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'm totes fine. I'm just super proud of you. I'm super proud of you. Like, which is double speak because he's proud of what she's about to become in the name of his cause. And he's like, I love you, Pen, pet naming her, which makes me upset. And he hugs her one last time and he's like, you're gonna do great. Which is doublespeak,
so
and I hate
disgusting!
it. It's doublespeak. I hate it. I hate his doublespeak the whole time. Because like the first time I watched this, and I didn't really know what was going on, I didn't catch Albin's voice the first time because I didn't memorize it. Because why would I? I was like, why is he so disproportionately sad? I'm like, something's about to happen to her because he is disproportionately upset about his daughter, whom he hasn't like shown a lick of like affection for this whole time, and he's suddenly upset like something bad's about to happen to Penelope. And it does because he's trash. And I hate it.
Trash human. He's a dumpster fire of a human.
He is. He's fucking awful, and I hate him. Justice for Penelope.
How the actual fuck do you do this to your daughter, you giant?
You do it when you disassociate the fact that your daughter's a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he hasn't seen her as a human being in a very long time. And I think that he's upset in this last moment because he's like, you look like my daughter, but you're not my daughter. And so, like, emotions come to the surface regardless. And he's like,
you're going to do great. Popeye collar.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
He's the anti-Christ Papa Collar.
He is, because Papa Collar is just like, listen, Scylla, I get that you're probably a criminal, but I don't give a fuck, whatever, stay. Have pancakes with me.
My daughter likes you, so you're in.
Yeah.
We'll do a chore wheel.
Exactly. Like, he sees the humanity in Scylla, regardless of, like, look, you probably did bad stuff, whatever. You're a human, you're a good human, that's fine by me. And here's VP Silver being like, you look like my daughter, but you're an other, and you're gonna do great for the cause. Thanks for your service.
And bye-bye.
Yeah.
Fuckhead.
Sorry. No. Accurate.
Hate it. I hate it here. From that dumpster fire of a goodbye, we're gonna go to the unit who is back in the common room next to the fireplace. Raylla walks up, putting her uniform shirt on, and she sits down and was like, has her hands together, and she's like, did we just change the world?
Yes.
Yes. So is the short answer. So Tally says, it feels like a start, doesn't it? And M turns around from the fireplace and they say, the question is, what happens next? And Abigail shoots right in there with her agenda. Next, we start focusing on our real enemy, the Camarilla. We're going to go kick some Camarilla ass. And then we switch to Sterling and Acacia, who are obviously...
Wait, before we leave, like, they're having this conversation as if, like, they're going to go rogue and do whatever. Like, their language of this conversation is so weird. It's almost like Abigail's like, yep, we as a coven are just going to go do our own thing now. And, like, M agrees with them. And I'm like, what are you guys on right now? Because you're part of the military. You can't just go do whatever. That's not how this works.
No, but remember, Abigail thinks Petra's all cool with it.
It's so weird. But, like, the way the coven doesn't question her, they're like, okay, I guess we're doing whatever. Like, I mean, like, it's this whole, it's so weird. It's so weird.
It is weird.
It's so weird.
And it's like, it's so weird.
It's so weird. They're just high on this victory of saving the world. They're like, yeah, we can do anything. You know, like that weird optimism. Doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah. It's weird.
Well, I think Abigail's delusional about her own absolute power to defeat the Camarilla in the first place.
1000%. But the fact that M jumps on this really quickly was weird to me. Because I'm like, you of all people have been like in command for a while. You've been living in the rules, actually following the rules on like the unit. Like, you know, you could be like, girl, what are you talking about? We're going to do what our orders tell us next. Like, what are you talking about? So I found this conversation really weird.
It's weird. Like, hi, what are you guys on?
Yeah, what are you guys on?
Especially you, Abigail.
Smoking the mycelium? Like, what are you doing?
Smoking the mycelium. No, that's Libba.
Yeah, Libba has made an Abigail bonfire in the mycelium.
Yeah, pretty much. My tribute to my love.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Because she's given up any pretense at this point.
No, never.
So, over to the Hets with a little bit of Anacostia and Sterling about to get it on, seemingly. But they are stopped when the power goes out, and some far speech comes in. It's garbled, but Anacostia tries to make it out, and then the power goes out. And she tells Sterling to go run ahead. She's got, she's just, you go and start doing the thing. I've got to do this alarm song. So I guess it's Anacosia's job to raise the alarm for the entire fort.
I guess.
Question mark?
Yeah. Right.
Okay, sure.
Sure.
Back in the common room, Gregorio runs in, and because every time anything happens, everyone is like, call her, we need a fixer. Seriously. That's like the slogan. That should be like the tagline of this show. Call her. We need a fixer. And she's like, okay, but why? What's going on? And he's like, I don't know. Let's just come out to the front steps. So they rush on out there and find a cadet who's bent over and grunting in pain, like she's trying to get something out of her body. And then you've got black webbing going over her face and all that good stuff. And Raylla realizes what this is and is like, run. But nobody listens to her because nobody listens to Raylla.
Well, she also doesn't say it loudly. It's like she's too afraid to get her voice to act, and she's like whispering, run. And there's like people like all kinds of like far away from her in that huddle. She needs to scream,
it's
girl.
like the people behind her didn't do anything either, and I'm like, okay, guys, run so real. Then when the cadet starts to vomit witch plague, Raylla then screams, run.
Yeah.
Then everybody runs away, and we see the witch plague spreading out in all the directions that the witches took to get away from it. So it's just going. And that's where the episode ends.
High stakes.
Yay!
Hate that damn witch plague. I wonder how that got there.
It's a cliffhanger.
It definitely is a cliffhanger. Cliffhanger? Elliot decides, I'm going to end this season with part 1.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Elliot?
I love you, Elliot, but fuck you.
Fuck you, Elliot. We're not there yet, but I thought that was really funny when I saw the name of the episode. I was like,
I know.
What?
The Revolution part
1. Who does this?
No, sir.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. But yeah, we're doing some high stakes, Elliot. Guys. But gotta hate the way the witch plague evolved so fucking quickly. I really hate it.
Yeah, like it's on like, I wish that I could evolve that quickly.
Right.
Like, can I have like my emotional state in this episode evolved too quickly, to be honest.
It's wild.
But witch plague.
Ugh, witch plague. That's the recap. Ugh, witch plague.
That's the recap. Speaking of the recap, here we go. Nicta is only giving up info to Tally because she knows the truth will come out about Sarah if she does. When Alder gets retired and Petra's the new head of the army, that means there's going to be an execution. Scylla continues to be a badass and has adapted Nicta's work to crows and uses it on more people than were in the forest with ease and doesn't get fatigued. They try to turn Raylla into a show pony, but a trip to the other side shows her that she has far more important things to do in the world, like win a war. Tally studies, and it pays off when she finds the key to stop Nicta's execution. Everyone else steps forward, Alder backs down, gives a stirring speech before witch mic dropping and departing. The feds are going to carry out Nicta's execution instead, and the Camarilla attack Fort Salem. Oh, and VP Silver is a dumpster fire of a human. The end.
The end indeed. But what an exciting way to end an episode. Stakes are high, guys.
And
Stakes are high.
Nicta's the badass, so...
Nicta's alive. That was my takeaway. Nicta lives to fight another day.
So, okay, who wins your award? Let's hear it.
Tally Craven.
Me too!
I mean...
Tally Craven.
Tally Craven.
Tally Craven.
She brushed up on her law enough to understand her legal rights for the right of proxy.
She got the mother tongue right.
She got the mother tongue right, too. She also doesn't have mycelium power, so she had to learn how to say that Raylla, and did it correctly. And mostly...
I can't believe you just called Raylla out for having mycelium
Raylla's a cheater. Raylla's a cheater. Raylla's a cheater. Tally had to fucking study with books, Raylla. You didn't have to do shit. With
Except
books.
go to the other side and be traumatized by the ghost of her mother.
Yeah, but she didn't learn any skills from that, or actually fully get to process any of that. It's more like, oh, Mom, wait, what? You're a mushroom? What the fuck? I'm the chosen one. That was that whole conversation. Tally was in the library fucking studying, learning laws of witches and how to speak mother tongue. And she did. And also, you gotta give it to Tally for not only bravely invoking the right of proxy, being like, yeah, Nicta's bad, but you're gonna have to kill me now, pretend that I'm Nicta, which takes an insane amount of bravery. She strikes Alder first with the Scourge, which was insane, and very, like, not Tally to be like, yeah, bitch, this is real, come at me. Knowing she was gonna get bested by Alder, because Alder kicks her ass in, like, 0.5 seconds. And by doing all of this and rallying the witches, because Tally's empathetic and people would want to save Tally, and I think Tally kind of knew that, and she literally changed history by doing this. And also, for my sanity, she saved Nicta's life. So thank you, Tally Craven, for having the most Big Witch energy in this whole fucking episode and changing the world. That's Big Witch energy right there.
That is. Huzzah.
Huzzah.
Go Tally Craven.
Go Tally Craven.
You're a badass.
She is.
But also, I have to give a special mention award to Scylla Big Witch Energy Ramshorn for her continuing to invent work.
Yep.
And meeting up with her BFF from the woods.
Yeah, Scylla would have gotten it if Tally didn't do all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Tally
was
wins.
the fucking hero.
She's the hero. She literally changed the world.
I know some people didn't like that she went so against Alder, but I was like, to me, it makes sense.
Of course it makes sense. This is desperate times. Like, Tally was in character this whole fucking time. None of this is out of character.
None of it. None of it!
So, good on you, Tally. You changed the world for better or worse.
Hell yeah.
And
then everybody backed you up.
The Laura Neal Award for this episode goes to VP Silver for being a fuckhead. And a character that behaved as if Laura Neal wrote for him. So he gets the Laura Neal Award, which that award and the character it is attributed to should be in the trash. So that's something new that he won with spectacular fashion.
If you win the Laura Neal Award on this podcast, you better just disappear.
You should be in the trash.
Because you are the trash.
You are the trash. You want a one-way ticket to Nicta's jail cell.
Yeah.
So.
But, like...
That's trash.
No, I think they want a one-way ticket to Scylla's jail cell in the Caribbean.
Okay, also, I was so confused about, like, where the fuck Nicta was. Because she's in this jail cell that suddenly exists, but they didn't think to put Nicta in the torture chamber that Scylla was in.
So here's my thing. They knew that this was going to be observed by other people, so they put her in the brig as opposed to putting her in Isadora's secret torture chamber because people aren't supposed to know that Scylla's there. That was my explanation for that.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't know why they didn't, in and out of, like, the president being there, like, do some torture to, like, at least, like, when they were trying to interrogate Nicta, like, did you guys not try to interrogate her in the torture chamber? Like, wear her mental fortitude down a little bit before, like, sending that poor witch woman in there to just die?
I think they just...
I don't know. I feel like that was like, maybe it's Alder underestimating Nicta, which is the whole theme of everything. But it seems weird.
It's also that this was arranged by Alder. Like, this was going through official channels.
That's
like,
true.
This is Nicta going into the actual official brig prison of Fort Salem, whereas Anacostia was arranging all of this other stuff on the DL.
That's true.
On the fly.
That's true. I mean, they're both in the Necro Lab because when Tally goes into the cell, you see, like, the chamber behind her where, like, Isadora did that experiment with Raylla and Abigail in those tubes that they were in, the witch bomb experiment. So it's definitely in the Necro Lab that they're in.
I think it's just, like, different levels.
Yeah, for sure. I just found that really weird because, I mean, part of part of war and things like that is like interrogation, and they didn't seem like they really like interrogated Nicta, really.
They're doing like the US version of home interrogation where they can't really actually torture them unless it's on the DL.
Yeah, it's true.
And a Black Ops site.
I mean, Alder's committing war crimes left and right. But anyway.
Jesus Christ, Alder.
I know. It's the cat's out of the bag there, Alder.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, that's a fun episode.
One more episode. One more.
One more, guys. But don't worry, we have content coming out after that besides our recaps.
We do.
Fear not, friends.
Special content.
Special content.
Love it.
Yep. All right, guys. Woo! Until next time when we get into the finale.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see you later then.
Hydrate for Lesbian Jesus.
Hydrate for Lesbian Jesus. And with that, we've been Big Witch Energy. If you like this episode, check out all of our other episodes right here on YouTube. Please like, comment below, and subscribe for more amazing content. Hydrate for Lesbian Jesus.